Deshaun Watson, when the Cleveland Browns made the very, in my opinion, ill-advised decision of trading an absurd amount of draft capital for him and then doubling down by giving him one of the most ridiculous contracts in league history. And what's crazy is on this show, myself and my co-host Dylan, who is normally here, we talked about, just from a football standpoint, why we didn't like the Deshaun Watson trade for Cleveland Browns. They were going all in on someone that neither of us thought is quite good enough to go all in on. Plus, you obviously have the surrounding issues that back then weren't quite as bad, because let's not just paint the Cleveland Browns in a negative light. There were several teams trying to trade for Deshaun Watson. Really, the whole NFC South, basically. Everyone that wasn't the Buccaneers was trying to trade for Deshaun Watson. And then, of course, you had Cleveland, and there may have been some other teams in the mix. So this was several teams in the league weighed the risk and said, you know what, we're going to try and go get this guy. Cleveland Browns won the Deshaun sweepstakes. They had the happy ending. And obviously, at this point, it may not have such a happy ending, because now the NFL is involved, and obviously everyone expects a suspension coming. But day by day, as this thing stretches out, that suspension feels like it's growing. The league has not said anything yet. The league is done speaking with Deshaun. They're done meeting with him. His lawyer, Rusty Hardin, and other representatives of him, they just cannot keep their foot out of their mouth. They just keep saying completely out-of-pocket things. One day you have them talking about, the NFL did a very thorough investigation, but we might not like the outcome of it. What are you doing? Like, you're just already setting yourself up. Because if the NFL essentially finds him guilty of misconduct and suspends him for a long time, now in every single case he's up against, their lawyer's going to be like, you admitted that the NFL did a great job investigating, and this was the conclusion that they came to. So that's just wildly out of pocket. You have Deshaun coming out saying he's never disrespected a woman, which, regardless of how true these allegations are, seems absolutely clearly untrue. Maybe he doesn't view these women as women. I don't know. I don't want to paint him in too bad of a light, but this whole thing is just, the NFL is sick of dealing with this. Cleveland might not have a quarterback for God knows how long, because while Baker Mayfield is still on the roster, he's not playing another down for them. There's not a chance in the world. He will watch this whole thing blow up and laugh his way all the way to the bank with his guaranteed $19 million in his pocket. Cleveland.
And he should.
Of course.
Listen, I don't. And here's, like, just to throw this high level managerial. First of all, I wonder if down the road there's going to be some kind of consequence for the Houston Texan organization, first and foremost. If these things turn out to be true, that they're providing him with a non-disclosure agreement to allegedly assault women, it just seems like, in the grand scheme of things, there's going to have to be some type of organizational consequence for that type of behavior. Like, you should not be enabling your star quarterback to do what he has been alleged of doing, first and foremost, from an organizational standpoint. Now, fly north to Cleveland. You have a quarterback who took you to the playoffs for the first time in years. Yeah, he might not be the best quarterback in the league, and yeah, he is probably a little too big for his britches. I understand that. But he's done your franchise good. And at this point, he owes you nothing. So to agree with you, if I was Baker, I'd be laughing myself to the bank with the $19 million guaranteed as well. I just can't understand from a management point of view why you ever thought this was a good idea. Pre-resolution, right? Pre-resolution, going and making a trade for a guy that you don't even know. What if he ends up getting the shoeless Joe Jackson treatment, right? And banned from football. Like, I don't think it's going to go that far, but you just invested $230 million into a quarterback that you don't know can even play it down for you, and most likely will not play it down for you for a very long time. It just screams of ineptitude from the Cleveland Browns front office.
That's the thing to me.
Ineptitude.
It screams of being the Cleveland Browns. obviously this has been talked about ad nauseum. They knew that there was going to be potential issues with him playing this season, which is why he essentially doesn't have a real salary this season, and his contract is so backloaded. They were smart by Deshaun Watson and his representatives, ridiculous by Cleveland to allow this charade. And honestly, Mina Kimes said it best. I don't know if you saw it. I shared a tweet actually earlier today. I love Mina, honestly, and I bring her up a lot on the show, but she always has a lot of good points, man. She said the Browns bet $230 million on Deshaun Watson because they hoped everybody would just move on. But the New York Times did something that the Browns arrogantly refused or pretended to do. They actually investigated what happened. And that's the thing that is most baffling to me. And I'm not going to get on a high horse and act like you should only hire Saints in the NFL. I am actually on record, on podcast and before, that I don't think if you are not in jail and you are an able-bodied person, you should be able to hold an NFL. I don't think NFL teams should be judge, jury, and executioner. I don't think the NFL should be this moral high ground. And unless you've done something just even look at Michael Vick, right? How horrible the things that he did was. He served his time. He got released. He was able to come back into the NFL. And I don't know, I'm never going to compare atrocities. I'm not doing that. I don't want some people to think, oh, you're comparing sexual assault to beating up dogs or whatever. I'm not doing that. I'm just giving an example of someone that did something reprehensible, paid their time, came back, and then was in the league. I don't think the NFL should have this moral high ground of you have to uphold it. No, these are football players. And at the end of the day, you are trying to hire the best football players you can to win football games. So I'm not taking that road. But as a franchise that is going to invest, it is not just the money. In the cap hit, there is a hard cap, so the money matters a lot. And I think the money is way too much for Deshaun Watson. But you also gave up copious amounts of draft capital that you need to continue building this team going forward. And you especially need the cheaper talent that you can get in the draft when you're paying Deshaun so much money like you are. So to give up all of that capital, to invest so much in him, to have the presser and double and triple down on the decision to bring him in, to sit there and say that we thoroughly investigated and vetted him, we are comfortable with our decision, we think Deshaun is basically a stand-up guy, the greatest person in the world, whatever, blah, 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 blah. The fact that some reporter from the New York Times did a more comprehensive investigation than you did before investigating all that. Listen, if I would respect you if you came out and said, you know what? We did a thorough investigation into this. We are not very comfortable with what went down. We've had long talks with Deshaun Watson and his behavior. We've talked to accusers. What happened is not good. It's not good for anybody, and we are going to try to move on from this. Deshaun's going to get counseling. We're going to put steps in place so that nothing like this ever happens again. Everyone involved is going to take responsibility for it. But at the end of the day, we thought he could help our football team win, and we thought that he can improve as a human being and be a better person going forward. I would have respected that. Tell me this is a football decision, and tell me that it's not. Yeah, it might be a big deal what he did, but at the end of the day, we're still comfortable enough to bring him in, and we think that he's going to not do it anymore going forward. Anything, which they're never going to come out and do. But don't sit here and tell us you vetted this guy, because you didn't. You knew what was going on, and you just didn't care. And don't act like what you were convinced by your investigation that everything's hunky-dory, and then give him the whole world, the whole keys to your franchise. A franchise, by the way, that is trying to contend for a Super Bowl. Because that's why they moved on from Baker Mayfield. And regardless if you think Baker Mayfield can be a great quarterback or whether you think he's a horrible quarterback, Baker Mayfield was the quarterback while the Cleveland Browns had the most success that they've had in a long time. Now, you may think it's similar to a Rams and Jared Goff situation. That Jared Goff was in a good situation with the Rams. Jared Goff happened to be the quarterback while they had a great period of success. And the Rams said, you know what? We need an upgrade to win a Super Bowl. They got an upgrade. They went and ran a Super Bowl. Won a Super Bowl. You may think that's what the Browns are doing with Baker and Deshaun, and that's fine. It's okay if they think that they're trying to get to the next level. But if you really have Super Bowl aspirations, and this is how you're going to get there, we talk about the capital that you gave up to get him. You don't have a huge window. Chubb's legs are not going to last forever. You have to continue to pay guys. If you are trying to go after a Super Bowl, you are paying a lot to do it. You're paying Deshaun Watson a lot to do it. You've backloaded his contract. If you lose, an entire year of Deshaun on top of that, there's a year of your window. What do you have? Maybe a 2-3 year window the Cleveland Browns have right now, unless they start nailing draft picks that they don't have.
Yeah.
So if you lose a
Right.
year of that, this is just so much risk for a team that is trying to take the next step with so little upside and seemingly turning everybody against them. The NFL doesn't want to deal with this. Roger Goodell and the other owners, they don't like these headlines that are coming up every single day. And then the Browns, how does this get them closer to a Super Bowl?
It doesn't. And that's the thing, right? Because at the end of the day, who's going to play quarterback for the Cleveland Browns this season?
Man on a mission, I'ma get it. You know I be on a what?